And welcome to another episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat. I'm Karen Scott Green.
And I'm Kat Hardrick.
And we are joined today by Antonio Hicks, who is no stranger to our show.
Yes.
Antonio is the host of PTGtv. He is a podcast host. He's an author, an entrepreneur, community activist, a devoted father and husband, and not more importantly, but also he is a friend of Conversations with Karen and Kat. He is an unofficial technical advisor to our show.
I know that's right.
Oh, yeah, he's an unofficial technical. And so we wanted to have Antonio on because he's always like busting at the seams with something new. As far as topics, he stays up to date on politics, gaming, everything technology. And we were talking with him when we saw him at the MLK Day Service Day. Hopefully you guys came out. If you didn't come out, you can always still donate. And we saw him at the MLK Day event, and we were like, we got to have you on. What's going on? What's new? What's emerging? And what really was on his heart was this current administration and the H1B visas. What was that, Antonio?
No, I say it was. Now, I mean, all these executive orders now.
Oh, I know, right? That's like that. So for anyone,
that's how fast you got to keep up with stuff.
I know.
That's like
and
that.
I think it's deliberate. But for those who may not be informed, the H1B visa is a non-immigrant visa that allows foreign nationals to work in the U.S. for up to 6 years. It's employer-based, so the employer has to sponsor the employee coming from out of the country, and they have to apply on behalf of the employee. To be able to work on an H1B visa, you have to have a bachelor's degree or higher. The employer must be trying to fill a specialized knowledge or skill, and they have to pay the employee the prevailing wage or actual wage, whichever is higher. So I know that had been an issue before. There were concerns that they were bringing H1B visa employees over, and they were paying them less than what they were paying American workers. And I'm still hearing that is the case, even though they have raised the amount. But what say you, brother?
I mean, for specialized fields. So the reason I'm passionate about this because you have some people that's in the news that say they're in agreement with it, which I can be if it comes to a particular task or skill set that they need over here that we don't currently have. But the reason I have issue with it because I work in a technical field, and there are a lot of people that have been laid off that have those skill sets, and they still continue to bring those people over here on H1B visas. Now, as far as pay salary goes, no, they don't pay them as much as the average American what it would cost. So most tech jobs now, especially like on where I'm at, like on senior levels, they're getting 6 figures and above. And I think the most that they can pay them at the cap is like, I think it's $75,000 or $80,000. And if it's like a specialized skill or job, they can raise it up to almost as much as $125,000.
Okay. And so these are supposed to be fields that they cannot fill with American workers. So the specialties that generally are employed are like architecture, engineering, math, physical sciences, social sciences, medicine and health, business specialties, education. So where they're saying that they don't have enough American, applicants to fill these positions, that's why the employers are supposed to be bringing folks over to fill these positions.
Right.
And what concerns me as someone who is paying college tuition currently for 2 students, and both are in STEM positions, and you're the same way, and both are in STEM programs. My concern, because one of my students is a computer science major, and right now, everything that I'm reading says that the current job market for folks coming out of school in like 2024 and 25, computer science, that the hiring is down.
Yep.
So why is there a need for H1B visas if the current market is down in those fields? I'm just,
Right.
no.
And the reason I is, as these kids would say, I call cap on that is because, like I said, I
Mm.
work in a senior level role, and
Mm-hmm.
one of my previous positions I was in, it was this guy I was working under. He brought somebody in onto his team because he had to finish out the rest of the money that was given to him in his department, and he
Okay.
brought this young lady over who came from a bank, and she was getting acclimated to the job, and she was like, she's looking forward to working on. I mean, what sense of you say you're looking forward to working on a team? So I'm under the impression that because she worked for a bank, that she worked in technology, some form of security or data
Yeah.
center management, something to that degree, to where she can step over to
Mm-hmm.
a senior position. No, this woman was a bank teller, and because she was referred in, they brought her over, and they was gonna get her up to speed on what we're doing. You talking about this is a senior level position. So you talking about somebody that has over 20 plus years of experience, and they brought
And
somebody in.
she's coming in as your peer.
Yes. Yes. And she wasn't the first one. Like I've met plenty of them similar to that. My former coworker, he had 7 years of experience, and he was working
Mm-hmm.
in a senior level position in the lab environment where I was working at. And like I said, he only had 7 years of experience. And I'm like, I've worked with people that had more skill sets. And there's no throwing no shade on him, but I'm just saying, I came from where I came from. I knew a lot of people that had more skill sets to do what I was doing and then some, that could have taken over in that job, and they don't get that opportunity.
One of the other requirements of H1B is that it doesn't infringe on the United States citizens' economic opportunities as well.
It's not supposed to.
And that is correct. And so that's why your comment is very alarming, because if this is a reality for you, how many millions of other United States citizens are experiencing the same thing? And again, for me, I'm open and understanding to non-immigrant visas, the H1B. I get it. You want to bring in people from other countries, create that relationship. It's just like me being an expat, wanting to go abroad to teach English as a foreign language. I don't want to give up my United States citizenship, but I do want to be able to teach abroad in Africa and other parts of the world. So, but I don't want to infringe on the national citizens' ability to earn a living for their family. I can just teach right here in the United States. One of the things that I wanted to mention, so one of the things that I wanted to suggest our listeners to go to is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website. That's uscis.gov. And it talks a lot about all the different immigration policies and so forth, but particularly what we're talking about today, H1B. And when you go to that website, it actually shows you the companies that are participating. And as of, I'm on the website now, uscis.gov, and one of the top employers, Amazon.com, has 9,265, as they would say, beneficiaries that have been approved.
Yeah.
It says the petitioner is Amazon.com Services LLC, and the beneficiaries approved is 9,265. Now, what are the titles again? You said technology?
So the fields that they are applying, they're supposed to be like STEM fields.
Because I'm
where
not
they're
trying to be
having,
funny, but I'm asking because, what STEM classes does Amazon? I'm just asking.
well,
Aren't they like
Amazon does have programmers, and they use
Yeah, they have
folks.
AWS, so
Yeah,
Amazon Web Services. So you have data center management and things of that nature.
cloud storage, all of that good stuff, and they would
Yeah.
need to have programmers for that. But I
Yeah.
have a hard time believing that they can't find that talent in the U.S. I have a
Especially with the
very hard
layoffs
time.
that have been happening as well
Yeah.
too.
And from what I've been reading is that this really benefits the big companies because they're the ones that can afford to do this. Smaller companies, the mom and pops, this doesn't benefit them, which would make sense because we see who supported
the new part.
47,
Because
Yeah,
the other
47.
that I make that a point is the other reason I make that a point is reporting. As you continue to look and read, some of these people are not actively reporting the work that these individuals are doing when they get here. So if you have a lot of people in these warehouses that aren't being treated right, like one particular, where are they getting all these workers from?
So they're not supposed to be using H1B
That is correct.
applicants in warehouses. They are supposed to be doing technical work or
Degree
generally it's
level.
degree level work. And generally it has been like the STEM, architecture, medicine, computers, those like that's really where they're supposed to be. But
Mhm.
even 47 has used H1B applicants in his Truth Social, and that website, that platform that he has used these applicants, these employees in his own business. And what's hypocritical about that, but that's kind of part and parcel. What's hypocritical about that is that when he got in office in 2017, one of the first things he did was he enacted under his America First or something like that.
Please don't say that about the immigration.
That was part of his immigration, was that he was setting higher criteria, like increasing the wage. So it made it difficult for smaller businesses to be able to bring over someone on an H1B because they couldn't afford the wages that they now had to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So he and it as a result, the approval rate, and they did a much deeper dive in the applicants' background than they had done before. So the approval rates actually went down under Trump's first administration. Now, fast forward to 2024 when he's running, and he's backed by billionaires, Elon Musk and Swamy and the Amazon guy. Then it's, oh, I've changed my position on H1B visas.
Mm-hmm.
Now that money has been pushed in front of him, he's changed his position. So now he's going to be more friendly to businesses that want to bring over workers under the H1B visas.
Which contradicts his America First stance.
What?
That part.
You can't be saying that, sir.
I mean, that part.
And it affects the people that support him. I mean, people that I know in my field that support him, it affects them. And I don't understand how they're okay with that. But then again, they are delusional too.
I don't understand why people don't understand that the man told you what he was going to do. Period.
Because nobody ever believes what he says he's going to do. Just like they don't believe when somebody throws up a salute and they say it's just a kind gesture saying to my heart, I love you, when it's clearly a Nazi salute.
Yeah, and everybody has recognized it as so.
And that is so disrespectful.
Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe your lying eyes.
It's just like us having to sit around and watch and read Confederate and people who lynched and killed us on the names of streets and monuments. Don't get me going with that. But then what about his tax? Well, stick with this bill. But when y'all said about that too, I was thinking about the tax cut for the rich went from 30-something to 20-something, 27% or whatever. And now he's supposed to be working on another tax cut.
My blood pressure has been higher. I already take blood pressure medication. It has been higher than, like, I literally have a doctor's appointment like for next week, because my blood pressure has not been going down since November.
Wow.
So blood pressure medication that I'm on is no longer working. So I got to, do a new, see what else is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because there had been a generalized anxiety amongst the people who did not vote for him, who understood and tried to tell people and did tell people and
Mm-hmm.
screamed and jumped up and down and waved our hands to say that these are the things that are going to happen. I
Well, I
Go ahead.
still I still fault them though. I had a discussion with somebody, this real estate agent today, talking about that, especially talking about people coming from our community. And I fault even the most educated people, because what were you doing to get that message out? Like, it's only a handful of us that get out and
Mhm.
do canvassing work and knock on doors, do voter registration drives. Because I'm like, we had 18 million people that didn't show up. So I'm like, what were
Yeah,
you doing to influence these people? And I get that they may have had issue with who the candidate was on the Democratic side, but I was like, would you rather give it to a dictator, or would you rather give it to a sister that can be molded and or have
that
4 years of calmness, and then you can get the person you want to get after the next 4 years?
that part. That part.
And so
'Cause
with them sitting around and not getting involved and saying, well, I know I'm gonna show up to go and vote. I'm like, I don't need you just to show up and go and vote. I need you to get
I
out
need
and
to
talk to
tell
more
people.
people.
That's right.
Yep. Like make that known, and folks did not. And I don't want this to be a postmortem on the election, because we are where we are. And
Oh, it is
now
what it is right now.
you know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
It's
We
petty
we
season. I mean, I'm enjoying it.
are
I sure was about to say the people that voted, they still mad too.
Hey, it's one of those
Some.
things to where you can be upset behind. I mean, because we have every right to be upset, especially with him
Mhm.
revoking the 1965 anti-discrimination bill that was put in by Lyndon B. Johnson. But I'm like, you can be upset, or you can, like in our position, from us coming from such a harsh background to where we've
Mhm.
had to deal with trauma before. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it's, to us, it just kind of is what it is. We've existed in this kind of space before, so now it's time for everybody else to find out what it's like.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I had the
And,
same conversation with my sister, and because there's someone close to us who's very concerned, a young person who's very concerned about the policies that he's enacting, particularly as it comes to rolling back um, those civil rights protections, LGBTQI
mm-hmm.
protections, and those sort of things. And as my sister and I were talking, I was like, Kim, we gonna be all right. We've always
Mm-hmm.
been all right.
Mm-hmm.
We come from a people that went through chattel slavery, that came out of that and then you know, dealt with Jim Crow, that lived, because our family, both sides, are from the deep South, Florida and Georgia, and so we've been through much worse, much more
Mm-hmm.
overt, and we're going to be all right. We know how to sustain, we know how to get through, we know how to survive, and we know how to also build up communities in the process. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what this for me, that's what this 4 years is going to be about. Building up my corner of the world so that I can make sure that my little area, right? Where I have some sphere, some influence, where you have some sphere, some influence, that you're making an impact where you are. That you make sure that your folks are good, that you make sure that the schools in your community are good. They have what they need. So for me, I think that this is a time for us to like really act locally. We can think globally, but act locally,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what we've done in the past. So that's what I'm thinking that these next 4 years is going to be about. How do we build up ourselves? We got to make sure our babies are educated,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
because we know they're not going to get what they need in these schools. Textbooks out in Texas talking about blacks came as servants. No, we were put in the hulls of ships and sent over
Well,
here.
and And a part of his agenda is to remove race education
Yes.
and if you're a university that does and I can't remember it, maybe y'all can chime in, but one of his agenda points is to remove or penalize colleges that are teaching race-based information. They need to stick with 1776 something education.
And to provide reparations to those that's been offended or hurt by the
Yes.
teachings of Black history.
Yes. My family never got 40 acres and a mule. The 40 acres and mules that they got, they bought.
Yeah.
I got the deeds to prove it. So yeah, but someone who is supposedly aggrieved by race-based policies that champion or support and make sure that we have equal access is able to sue. Get the hell out of my face.
Yeah, everything's convenient when it's for your family, and then once your family gets what they need, then they create laws that no one else can do it. Because if I'm not mistaken, members of the newly elected leader of this country has people who are not born in this country, and they were able to receive benefits.
Yeah.
He's doing everything he can to slight Black people. I mean,
Yes.
realistically, they can call it any other way. He's offended that 97% of the people, Black people that voted, they voted against him.
Yep.
Just like, I mean, and I get that when he came in, he did the same thing with President Obama. He revoked all of President Obama's his executive orders. And even him doing it now with Biden is nothing new. But what struck me was one, because I made a video on it too. He struck down one. It was called the Establishment of the White House Office of Faith-Based on Neighborhood Partnerships. This is involving his Christian community. And he struck that down because a part of that bill was to help out minorities in there. And the whole thing is about servitude and helping out the community as good Christians. But because it mentions about minorities in it, he struck it. I'm sure that's why he struck it down. You can't tell me otherwise. Why?
Yeah, because what would be the reason that you would strike down religious groups helping the community? It's faith-based, so that's a positive, and you're building up your community. That's another positive. Why is it not good, other than just being petty?
Because, I mean, when you're talking to the devil, he don't like to be talked to. Just like when he was sitting in church and he didn't like to be preached at. He couldn't sit comfortably.
That's why we got to call on the name Jesus, 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 because they will tremble and run. Girl, get the heck out of here.
So I am not afraid of this administration.
I'm excited.
Tell me why you're excited.
Because it's one of those things too. I mean, because you all work. I mean, all of us work within the community. And I've shared this story a million times because I was just so annoyed by it. When I went out to the community that I grew up in. Like, this is where I grew up at, where my kids was born at. And of course, it's a rough part of town now. It's a rough part of town now, but to have somebody come out and have almost like a gun drawn on me, I want them to find out what this is like and what it's going to be like. So with all these new policies coming out that affect them, especially if you're living in that street life, is really going to affect you and you chose not to show up and vote. Or like the sisters I talked to, they said they don't like either side and they're not voting for anybody. And another nurse I talked to that was a sister, she said she don't want to even get involved with the process. So now, because none of them want to get involved in the process, I want them to find out. Because everybody had this thing about saying that, especially in the Black community. I don't want to make it too much about race, but they were saying everybody in the Black community showed up. I was like, no, they didn't. The people that always show up, they're the part of that 97%.
92%. Yeah.
But of the 18 million, a large number of those were minority and Black people, and they refused to show up because they didn't want to be involved in this process because they didn't like either candidate. So I'm like, so it's time for you to find out. I've gone through struggle before. I know what struggle is. I've been discriminated against. I know what all of that is.
Yes.
So I'm like, but this new generation hasn't experienced some of that stuff. So now it's time for them to find out what it's going to be like and what their struggle is going to be like.
And it's amazing to me when the young people have said that they would prefer the current establishment over Kamala. Yeah, let me just stop. Yeah, I'm trying to be respectful of his name. The one who shall
Just
remain.
say 47.
Yeah, 47. No, I'm showing no
Just say
respect towards his
47.
name.
Just say 47. Because
Yeah,
I went through an entire 4 years without saying his
Yeah,
name
I
between
don't call his
2017
name.
and 2021.
I still
Yeah.
don't. The person whose name is so.
I said 45 before, and then now I'll say 47.
I look at it like you calling Candyman. You don't want to say it too many times because he might show up in your house.
Right. That's right, because I don't give any energy to the devil or the enemy. So I don't lift their name up. I just call out on Jesus. But I will say, one of God's children, because we're all God's children. Hello, one of God's children, and it just amazed me how the young folks would still say that they're going to vote for them, but they could not really tell you why. Like personality or what you read in the media. Have you done your own research to look at
No.
action? Like, look at what they've actually done to help you.
Mm-mm.
And that's what burns me up, because all of us in these streets, we all know what it's like. For me, when I come against a person who says, I mean, I respect the person when they say they don't vote for their religion because of their religion. I have to respect that. But when people complain and they say what they're not going to do for things that are not factual, and you still want to know why you have 15 gas stations, why you have no street lights, why your police chief is racist, why you are being, you're in a food desert. You
Because you
don't
don't
think
vote.
about it.
You don't vote. You don't go to planning meetings. You don't know what's
Why your
going on
street,
in your.
why your street have potholes. Like, these are local things that you can look and see who's doing, and then you want to run behind somebody because they have a pretty flyer, because they have a nice commercial, or because the mainstream, that's all you see, and you start believing whatever they're talking about, and you're not looking at your own facts. And now that, I don't want to say D-Day, now that the day is here, you're going to see and feel it. Because guess what? If the taxes, look up the current administration's agenda: housing, taxes, education, healthcare, Social Security. If you're going to cut taxes, so how are you going to make up the revenue? Just simply put,
Because if you're
if
bringing
you're
in
trying to
less
get rid of
money,
the IRS, you're going to create your own ERS, external revenue for the tariffs, and you're threatening Canada, Mexico. You're going to change the name of Gulf of Mexico. You're making all of these. Dude, how? And people, this is great. Okay, the United States is a business. How do you think they generate revenue? Your taxes. How do you think they're going to pay for all of the services that you get? Medicaid, Medicare. How do you think you pick up trash in your own neighborhood? The taxes that you pay in your community, income, property tax, and hotel, motel, all these different. Learn where the money comes from. And why is it that the rich are going from 37 or 39%, they're going down to the high 20s? And he has an opportunity, because is it the TCJA? It's about to expire. Tax Cut and Jobs Act. It's about
is
to
that the one
expire.
that he signed into law when he was in office?
And it's about to expire this year. And when it expires, he's going to have an opportunity to redesign some other tax breaks that might be codified.
So here's some of the things that he signed into. Some of the things that he's signed into with his executive pen so far. He's declared an emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border. Now, mind you, it's only an emergency when he gets back into office, right? He's vowing to deploy troops to that region, including the National Guard. He's doing a remain in Mexico policy, ending asylum seekers being able to come into the U.S. while the cases are being considered. And let me tell you why that's important. Because since this country was founded, we've, those words on the on the Statue of Liberty that says, give me your huddled masses. We've always been a country that allowed citizens from other countries to come here to seek asylum when they were seeking, when they've been persecuted in their country. There was some fear of danger. They've always been able to come here to the safety of in the U.S. and apply for asylum. And so they're vetted when they're in this country. They get vetted, and it's a very thorough process for asylum. So this executive order now says you have to remain, like if you're coming through Central South America, you have to remain in Mexico. If you're coming up to walk through, you can no longer like come into the US and apply for asylum. So that means our Black and brown brothers from Central South America, from Haiti, where they are killing
Cuba.
people. Cuba.
Yeah.
Well, no, Cuba has a special policy. Cubans are going to always be able to come unless they change the law. There is a special carve out for Cubans.
Well,
That
I know
if they get to U.S. soil,
then they can stay. I know on the list it said Cuba, Haitian, Canada, Mexico was what I read. Go ahead.
And then another one, his executive order, I mean, well, I don't know what this Supreme Court, but he is trying to do away with birthright citizenship. So our U.S. Constitution, something called the U.S. freaking Constitution. Mm-hmm. The U.S. Constitution guarantees that anyone born in this country gets American citizenship. An executive order cannot trump the U.S. Constitution. I said that name. So he actually signed an executive order that goes against the U.S. Constitution. I believe it's the 14th Amendment. Mm-hmm. But since this country was founded, if you were born here, with the exception of Africans who then we had to be given our citizenship once we were emancipated. But birthright citizenship is protected in the U.S. Constitution. So, I mean, that's going to be litigated if something hasn't already been filed.
Yeah, nobody has to adhere to it. But he did strike down, what you talking about, the humanitarian parole? Yes. He struck it down for Cuba, Nicaragua, Haiti, and Venezuela.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that part. So yep. Cubans voted for him. So, never thought the lion would eat their face. He declared a national energy emergency, ordering expedited, deregulated drilling.
Oil.
Mm-hmm. Oil. Yeah.
And you know whose communities they typically affect when you do their drilling.
On Native American land, in Black and brown and indigenous communities, that's where it's going to be impacted.
And I know people want their jobs because you do have those companies like, yeah, we need to be able to do this because they've been doing it for generations and generations. But look, 2 words, climate change. 2 words, cancer. People who can't have clean water, clean air. Like, dude, how many more decades do we have to continue to kill this planet and the people who live on it? Next.
He has withdrawn us from the Paris Climate Treaty.
Yeah, they don't believe in climate change.
It's the second largest greenhouse. We are the second largest greenhouse gas emitter. Mm-hmm. And we are no longer a part of the Paris Climate Agreement, which means that industry will be allowed to pollute. And why Black people and brown people need to be concerned about this, because I know there are plenty of Black folks who are like, oh, they don't care about environment, right? But a lot of these polluters are placed in Black and brown communities. Our babies have the highest rates of asthma and respiratory issues in Black and brown communities. So that's why this is important. And we need to be taking heed. So the fact that we're going to roll back and roll back emissions and gut the EPA?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he said he ordered the federal health agencies to halt communications. So things that's reported in your food, how drugs going to affect you, they don't know how to report it anymore.
Yeah.
Say that again, brother. Say it loud, please, so people can get that. It needs to stick.
The stuff, I mean, because we already put so much stuff in our food that other countries won't even allow us to import into their country. And so he's frozen federal health agencies to even communicate as to what's going into your food, how it can harm you. And the same with drugs.
Now, for everyone who didn't want to believe Dr. Fauci for COVID, and you didn't want to know what was going in your body to protect from, dying and everything, here it is. This man was trying to tell y'all what was in it, what was going on, and so forth. Now you have a leadership that's about to tell you, you won't even know what's in your cereal.
Yep.
Yeah.
You won't even know what's in your vitamins. And keep in mind, you already don't know what's in it anyway. Now he gonna make it legal. At least it's illegal, but now it's gonna be legal. Stop playing.
And we are withdrawing from the World Health Organization.
Yep.
These are the communities, these are the organizations, or this is the organization that put out the directives about COVID, that when there's an epidemic, it's the World Health Organization who saddles up, goes in. They're in there first when there's an epidemic to study, to find out how it's spread, and to keep it from spreading, and to inform everyone else. And
And it's a
so
partnership. It's a global partnership.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that, Hicks?
Well, I mean, he's doing it because of what happened last time, and then it's a new variant out there that's affecting that people are dying from in China already. The Chi is XEC that's out. So if they're not investigating, I mean, they're still going to investigate it, but if we're not a part of it, then to us it's not real. And you already have people passing away over in China from this strain, and you know how it spread last time. It's going to eventually spread over here, but it's not going to have to be reported on.
Yeah.
Sad. And we're already fighting 3 viruses right here in the United States, right? The flu, COVID, and RSV. The hospitals are still increasing with people being infected with just those 3. And shoot, we're still recovering from COVID. So if, for all our listeners to understand the gravity of this, this is
We
why
are
it's
not alarmists. We are realists.
correct. And that's the fact. And that's why you stay glued to information and identify what you need to do to protect your family, stay engaged, and become an advocate so you'll know what you need to do, because nobody, like Michael Jackson said, they don't really care about us. Yeah. Everybody want to talk about Martin Luther King's I Got a Dream speech, but he said a lot of other speeches too.
He sure did.
Yeah.
And listen, they didn't come for him. He wasn't killed until he started talking about economic policy.
Yep.
King was on the verge of trying to unite poor whites and poor blacks because he knew that poor people had more in common. He was the Poor People's Campaign. They had more in common than they didn't have in common. And their struggle wasn't against each other. The real struggle was against the powers that be, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's against those folks who have the money, who keep your wages low, whether you're black or you're brown or white, right? So the folks who are against increasing the minimum wage, those are the enemies of us all.
I mean,
Lyndon B. Johnson said it the best. If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you picking his pocket.
That's right. That's right.
What he say, Hicks? You picking my pocket?
You pick his pocket. He said if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket.
And that way you keep the races fighting against each other, when in reality we should be fighting against the oligarchies. We should be fighting against the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musk, those people who will donate, who put $1 billion into someone's campaign to get what they want.
That doesn't include the majority of the people. Yes. And it's it reminds me of the caste system. And is it really race more so than the haves and the have-nots? Because as long as we create some level of division, then you can always continue to make yourself supreme. That's the whole gizmo, because you have people that's doing dominance in same race countries. India, China, Japan. They all Chinese, they're all Indian, but they all treat each other different. My two friends are from China. One, I ain't gonna say which countries, but they're both from China. And one from one particular country in China says that the other
One
country is the low.
province.
Yeah, thank you, is a low life. They're trash. And I said, but y'all from the same country? What is you talking about? She's like, And I'm like, wow, same thing with a friend, husband and wife from the country India. One's from northern, one's from southern, but one's considered less and beneath than the other one is. And I'm going, so they only speak English and the one from the elite's country language. The other spouse's language is obsolete in the household. So y'all erase one, yeah. So that's deep. And now look at what we have right here. The only way you can help make white people feel inferior to or attempt to feel to us, because the color of our skin, it's easy to see us. When you out in public, it's easy to see Black. And then you want us to say, I'm ashamed of what I look like. I gotta do all these things. And now women got cancer and all this stuff because we done put perms in our head and hot rollers and all this stuff. Because and look at us. Be bold and be beautiful. And that's what we got to teach each other. Bump them. You can take education out of these universities and, like you said, get them reparations later. But we'll be teaching ours just like the ancestors did. My kids laugh at me because I tell the same story over and over again. I said two things. One, it's true because I keep saying the same thing over and over again. And then two, that's how our ancestors did it. They have recorders of videos. They sat around and they told the same stories. Oral history. So nobody can stop this Blackness. We here, we ain't going nowhere, and we know how to survive. This ain't our first rodeo. But for some of us, it's their first. But that's why they got those of us that know how to do it, and the people beyond us. Our 80 and 90-year-old ancestors, hey man, they know how to do it, and we just got to lean on that.
The problem is, though, us trying to do that, they're still going to come against us. Same thing to do with the women with the Fearless Fund coming here out of Atlanta that provided venture capital to Black women's startups. So I'm like, it's no different than anything that we ever try and do. If we try to do something on our own and we start becoming better than other people around us, they're going to use the courts against us to try to strike it down.
Did you just say somebody came and gave us money? Who?
No, the women who started the venture capitalist firm, and they were funding Black women to start businesses.
Oh, and they struck them down.
And that got struck down in the courts. So we may have to figure out some other way to get those businesses funded. Like those businesses, those funds may have to come from outside of the U.S. I don't know. We're gonna have to outthink. We got to stop playing checkers when they're playing chess.
Yeah, because I'm about to say people who are venture capitalists, they get to choose who they want to do all that stuff in Silicon Valley. How many of them look like us?
So
I ain't throwing no shade.
What this lawsuit did was it said that you cannot have a race-based policy that only targets.
I get it.
In this particular case, it was Black women.
Yeah, which is interesting though, because they don't look at the numbers of how much funds go towards Black businesses from venture capitalist firms, which is hardly none. It's less than 1%.
Yes,
correct.
But that doesn't
so we just
matter.
Need to stop saying the name.
Yeah, we do. Yes, we do.
Yeah,
right.
There's a way to do it without saying that you're doing it. And they got and so people who are in that sphere have to think outside the box. If that means creating your organization outside of the US so that you can fund businesses inside of the US, that may be something that you have to do outside of the US purview. Base your business in Canada and say you're going to help, minority businesses wherever. And then,
You
build
can't
out.
just look at the applications and look at their names. I'm just playing.
No, because
No, no, can't do that no more.
if you saw Catherine Hardwick or if you saw Karen Green, no, you
Yeah.
wouldn't. You wouldn't. But some other things that this administration has done is like they're also picking at federal employees. They're requiring all full-time employees to come back to work in office. If it ain't broke, why fix it? And there's not a hiring freeze in government positions. Doesn't apply to the military or immigration or national security or public safety. But what they're doing is they want to be able to weed out people who they think would not be loyal to him. And other things that they're doing, well, he granted a complete pardon and clemency to the January 6th rioters. And these are people who, some of them,
January 6th terrorists.
yes, these are
My
people,
opinion.
it was 1,500 people, over 1,500 people, that some of these people assaulted Capitol police officers. Not just assaulted, battered.
And murder.
So yeah, that part. But they have complete pardons, and not all of these people had no criminal history before. Some of them had criminal history, and they got complete pardons. It wasn't like a case by case kind of a situation. Blanket pardoned.
I mean, I expected that. I think the one that shocked me the most, that kind of punched me in the face, that I would not have expected, was for him to pardon Ross Ulbright. And he's the founder of Silk Road. So this is underground site that all of us nerds that exist in the dark web, where you could buy drugs. I mean, it had hacks that was in it, malware, spyware in there. You could do human traffic. I mean, it was just everything. Yeah. I mean, this man was like the epitome of the scum on the earth. And he was hiring hitmen. And I'm like, why would this man even show up in your radar to even want to pardon him? And this fool literally said, after enduring over what did he say? The scum that worked to convict him were some of the same lunatics who were involved in the modern day weaponization of government against me. And I'm like, this. So in my theory and other people's theories online, they're conspiracy theory, of course. He's trying to build up this massive army of loyalists that can operate outside of the law to go after people. Because I'm like, why would you pardon this man of all the things that he's done? Like, I mean, they literally trafficked humans on his website.
Yeah, money
talk. I can see that conspiracy theory, because he's gonna be like, I'm gonna need somebody to do my dirty work, and I need them to be 10 toes removed from me. Yeah, that's crazy. And so that speaks to your morality. Like, dude, human trafficking.
Yes.
So
morality.
And you talking about you got a Bible with your hand on it and all this stuff, and you gonna release a person
that upside down Bible?
Yeah, he never did touch it though. So that heat was getting to him.
That upside down Bible?
Hush up. Well, he had a Bible with his name on it. He touched the Bible at some point.
He didn't touch it when he was getting sworn in. It was a book on top of it.
I wouldn't know, because I saw none of it.
I didn't watch any. I just saw the highlights.
Anything. Yeah. I watched Netflix on Monday.
I read
and he has rescinded the 2022 Biden executive order lowering prescription drugs.
Yeah, that his followers need.
No, they don't. Would you stop saying what his followers need? They voted for him to do these things. What are you talking about?
So folks who couldn't afford their diabetic medicines prior to 2022,
there was a cap.
Now going to be. Let me tell you, because we discovered that, well, my mom passed before 2022, but one time before, when I was like doing her I was doing her Medicare re-enrollment, and she didn't have prescription drug coverage. She thought she didn't need it because my father, through his retirement insurance through the county, they had a prescription drug coverage. Well, it wasn't as robust as what she would have gotten through the Medicaid part, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I discovered that one of my mom's insulins at the time was like $300 a month. So what she was doing was, so she had like two, but one of them she was having to put on her credit card every month.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she got her Social Security check, she would pay the credit card because she couldn't, afford it. So one, I was like, why didn't you tell Daddy? Because Daddy could have got it. But then number two, why isn't this covered by your insurance?
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I got her. I filled out the application for. I filled out the prescription drug coverage for her to get that through Medicaid, and it went from $300 something a month to like $30 or $40 a month.
Oh, praise God.
But that's because she had a daughter who took the time to sit down and look at that. But there are a lot of
that don't have it.
There are a lot of our seniors who don't have anyone. And let me tell you, I got 3 degrees, and trying to sit down and do that Medicaid coverage for her and understanding the different parts, that was complicated. I went home. I actually had to go and sit down with one of the people at, I think it was like Publix or somewhere, who actually was sitting in the store to help you go over like the Medicaid different parts and all of that. I had to actually go and sit down with somebody to explain to me, okay, so what do we get on this part? What do we get? It's very confusing.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
intentional.
there are a lot of seniors who don't have anyone to sit down and go over those things with them. And if I found it complicated with a few degrees, what's the average older person who may not have a college education or someone to assist them?
They voted for him.
They did. When it comes to things like, and I know folks voted for him, but there are going to be folks who didn't vote for him who also will suffer consequences. That's where we are. That's our reality. There's nothing we can do to change that part. He's in office. But I think it's incumbent upon us, everyone, not just the people who didn't vote for him, but to get to their Congress people. So when it comes to things like this prescription drug policy that Biden had, now it has to be legislated into law, right? He's had an executive order. We need to lobby Congress to get this into law so that when another president comes in, we're not going back and forth on this. And the same thing with some of these other policies, and part of the problem too is that Congress is afraid of him because he's a bully.
And his constituents. I mean, it's the same as Warnock and Ossoff voting for the Lincoln Riley Act.
Ooh, now explain what the Lincoln Riley Act, because
I don't mean to laugh, but I'm laughing because I love his brother and I love my sister. We haven't had a conversation, family, but our brains be so in tune. So that's all I'm saying. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
Explain to people what this Lincoln Riley Act and
please explain
what happened in Athens, because I'm upset that this got passed because it was unnecessary. But go ahead.
It pretty much weaponizes ICE to be able to come in and detain people, to come into your jobs, to come wherever you are, to lock you up before they even figure out whether or not you're an illegal immigrant or not. That's just the gist of it.
That's a short and dirty.
And so,
how did this come about?
So Lincoln Riley was a student at University of Georgia in Athens, Georgia, and she was unfortunately murdered by someone who's in this country illegally, and it was undocumented. That person had a prior arrest. I don't remember what that arrest was for, but I think it was something minor, and he was out. And then this happened. And so because of that, during the campaign, her murder trial became a rally cry against immigration. And so her trial became, well, the trial of her murderer who was convicted, became a banner or a poster of all that's wrong, quote unquote, with our immigration system and policies. So because this person was here and undocumented, um, when 47 was on the campaign trail, he talked about it and talked about how, this family, if it wasn't for this person, this family wouldn't have suffered this loss. So they came up with this Lincoln Riley Act. Did I say her name right?
Lakin.
Lincoln Riley Act. So that when someone is stopped, they can be taken into custody, into ICE custody, and held while they're pending trial. So they'll be held by immigration before they even have had an indictment or an accusation filed.
Yep.
Just arrested. Because let's be clear, we all are sad and prayers go with the family that they lost their loved one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We definitely feel like the person should, if whoever's guilty, if this person is found guilty, they need to be punished by the law 1,000%.
And he was found guilty. He was tried by jury. He was found guilty, and he has been sentenced to prison.
And the only thing we're saying is we don't agree with this trial being used to blanket all immigrants and to create a law that now they're going to be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
Targeted, detained, and being used as an excuse, which to me, again, like we keep saying, we've been through this. This isn't our first rodeo. It just makes me think about us being targeted, being Black and walking the streets. And so now you continue to make laws to control the type of people who you want to be around you.
Mm-hmm.
And now because of this, you've inflammatory, you just blew it out of proportion, and it's not necessary. But people voted for him, and here where we are. And same thing with the people who voted for it right here.
Yeah, Lucy McBath voted for it.
And I'm so disappointed because this was a racist bill. It was racist. It is a racist bill. It had racist motivations. And the way that it's going to be implemented, we know that there are going to be some racial, that we know that there's going to have some discriminatory practices. There's going to be some stopping of people who look like they may not be here.
And then that's up for them to make the determination, though. That's the part, that's what I'm saying. That's how we can relate to that. It's up to the person with the badge, the person with the authority, to be able to say, you look suspicious to me. Get that out of here. Tell everybody where they can find this bill and they can learn more about it. The name of the bill and where they could go, please.
It's HR 7511. So HR 7511, which was passed in this Congress here. You can go to congress.gov and then you just go down to the 118th Congress, HR 7511.
And please go there for all questions about bills to see what your elected officials are doing. If you got a question about something, look and see what they're sponsoring and look who's co-sponsoring them.
Yeah. And email them, call them, write them. They're there to respond to you. And don't just do it once, do it multiple times. And then get with your family and friends and people in your community and write them as a whole. And follow when they're going to be in your area so you can see them and ask them questions face to face.
Yeah, because they're not having town halls.
Oh, yeah.
They what?
They're not having town halls. They're not doing town halls.
So we need to, we need to get with We need to get with our representatives. We need to get with our senators. Call their office. Let them know that you didn't appreciate this bill and what your
Well,
thoughts are about it, or any of these bills, or any. You're gonna be doing. You listen. Keep your phone on you for the next 4 years. You're gonna be calling folks.
Yeah, because we did
And
that
email.
with Ossoff and Warnock, and it didn't change their opinion on it. They still voted for it. So it's
Don't
like now you
don't.
got to show them, which is crazy because I think Warnock's is coming up next year. No, Ossoff is coming up next year, and I'm like, you do that knowing you risk losing your position.
Yeah.
Right. I want to know why. Like when you express your concern, I want to know what was going through their head to rationally think. Just for example, this bill we're speaking of. What made you think why you thought to vote yay or nay? That's
Because it's
always
election
the
season.
time, huh?
Mhm.
It's election season. He knows that with that he can get more people to show up to almost guarantee him a win.
Right. I know that, you know that, Karen knows that. I want to hear what he has to say when he or she or whoever voted for bills that you don't appreciate or agree with. You have to find out what their reason is. And when they start tap dancing, then you as the voter need to be able to challenge and push that back and identify that maybe this person really doesn't have good intentions behind these votes, i.e., like the current administration who released dude that's a human trafficker. What is your reason behind that? You can't give a justifiable reason that you released a criminal to that degree. Like you're not giving somebody a second chance who broke into somebody's house or a grand theft auto. We're talking about somebody who has committed human crimes
Yeah.
against humanity. Young children, more than likely, against their will, getting out. Come on now. So we need to start holding people accountable by holding ourselves accountable.
Yeah.
Stop just walking through the matrix, man. Unplug. Get into this.
So my charge to our listeners and our viewers is to get engaged. I don't need you to get mad. What did President uh what did President Obama
Don't
tell me?
say no. Go vote.
Don't
He
don't
said don't.
don't boo.
Right.
Vote.
Vote.
Go vote.
So don't be mad for the next 4 years. Where you gonna be mad anyway? Because he's gonna do some stupid So, but what I need you to do is to be engaged. We need to be an engaged and informed electorate because that right there, being informed and engaged, is the enemy's worst nightmare. The fact that you actually know what's going on and you can speak truth to power, that's what we need for our listeners. Whether you're on listening to this show, you're listening to our brother's show, whoever show or whatever, wherever you're getting your news, your information from,
PGTV.
you need to be informed. Now, for those of you who might be interested in the text of HR 7511, you can go to congress.gov /bill / 118th Congress /House bill. But if you go to congress.gov, you can drill down to find HR 7511. Or once you get there, you can always go to the search menu and look it up. But when it comes to this bill, those executive orders, you can find the executive orders at whitehouse.gov and see what he's been doing. Those little chubby little fingers have been busy for the last few days.
Mm-hmm.
I purposely have to, I can only take so much. But our charge to you from Karen Scott Green, from Antonio Hicks, from Kat Hardrick, is to be informed and engaged. You need, not just for the next 4 years, but for forever, you need to be writing, contacting, calling your state representatives, your county commissioners, your state legislature, your governor, your representatives in Congress. So, all the way from your local level to the White House and Congress, you need to be informed about what's going on. And I've said this before. There's a saying that says, think globally, act locally. So while we are concerned about like what's going on in the global, in it globally, we need to start locally what's going on in your own backyard. With
Yep.
that, Brother Hicks, I'm gonna let you give us
Had them
a
last word.
last word, party thought.
I mean, it's one. I mean, just to piggyback off of what you said, I need people to become more involved and not just show up to be ignorant, because it's not doing you any justice, and it's not doing any justice for the people that's around that you supposedly love. Especially if you're calling yourself being an entrepreneur, because that's what a lot of us gonna have to be these days with all these layoffs taking off. Him getting rid of that 1965 bill that allows discrimination in the workplace, so women gonna get discriminated against, black men, minorities. People gonna get discriminated. LGBTQ. I mean, everybody's gonna be discriminated against. Some sexual harassment is gonna go up, and this is the consequences of your actions of not choosing to participate. Because choosing not to participate is participating. And then those that voted for him, this is what you're getting for somebody that you voted for because you didn't want to vote for a woman. So you reap what you sow. And like I told my boys all the time growing up, one thing I always said to them was, for every action there's a reaction. It's up to you to depend upon what the reaction is going to be it good or bad. And this one, unfortunately, is a bad one. So I always say, at the end of the day, for those of us that's out there that did not vote for him, laugh about the things that you have no control over, because tomorrow's not promised. So enjoy today for what it is. Because you don't know if you're going to have tomorrow anyway. So live life at its best right now and just pray about things for tomorrow.
Amen.
And y'all can find me at PTGtv.online. So you can find all of my stuff out there that I'm working on right now. I'm picking back up on doing show. I just published another show today talking about these very things. So you can find all of my information there. That's PTGtv.online. And thank y'all for having me on. I enjoy it.
Oh, always. We enjoy talking to you. That's how we, this supposed to be a 30-minute show. We talking for over an hour. Because the conversations just flow like that, brother.
I know, right? I love it.
Just flow like that.
And I love how you just have so much information, man. You be on it. And I do want to say one thing. I'm always last minute. But if you could talk about that gala that you went to for the entertainment industry, just briefly. I know you went to an awards for the entertainment. Can you speak to that a little bit, and how young people can get scholarships from there and other things?
So it's called the Gala 100 event. And what it is I can forget the name of the studio. It's the new studio off of, was it Peachtree Industrial, and it's in the Norcross area. So it's not just they have this every year now. I think this is the third year. Well, yeah, they're going to be having it going forward, but I think it's the third year they're having it, because the studio just really open. But it's not just for people just getting into acting. I mean, they need people, I can call them grips, people that can work and build on sets. I met somebody there that actually helped build out, like the IT stuff, build out the servers just to even throw the events, or just for filming to take place around there. They need construction workers, groundskeepers. I mean, these are all things that they need. They hire for at this studio. So it's not just about, when you think about entertainment here in Georgia, it's all about acting, or you get into film and production. Sets have to be built out. So regular stuff that you would see out in regular common world, from yard work and things of that nature, you can do the same thing in movie studios and get paid a lot more than what you would out on the streets. So I'll look it up and I'll send it to you all, so you all can send it out to your listeners. I have a mailing list. But look for the Gala 100 event. It's here in Georgia. And it's every year. And like I said, they invite in content creators, because I'm a content creator. They invite in people that get into filming productions, those that do marketing. I met somebody there. She has a limo service. So she provides limousine service to the actors and actresses that want to get on sets. I met a ton of people there that don't have hardly anything to do with film.
Yep. But they have a job, they have income potential and everything. So that's really important.
Which organization is this?
It's the 100. I don't know the name of the gala, but
is it the Emerging 100 of Atlanta?
The Emerging 100, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I just found this. The emerging
And don't
100 of Atlanta, the
No,
11th.
not that.
Not
That's the black man.
no.
mm-hmm.
This is emerging leaders
um
awards. Okay.
but don't they have a relationship with youth or children or something? A
They got a
partnership?
partnership with the Georgia Film Academy.
Okay.
There you go. And then how does that work? Do you remember? I'm
No,
putting you all on the
not
spot.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta prep me for this now.
You know, we don't have any prearranged questions, but I just know you always in rooms. And so this is why with Conversations with Karen and Kat, we are thankful for the relationships that we have, because we have people who can bring you factual information to help you create a thriving life for yourself, whether it's going into film and acting or post-secondary schools or becoming an attorney or going into politics, whatever that is. But you want to have concrete factual information. So Hicks was in this event earlier this year, and it just had a bunch of like he said, opportunities that you won't even think of. You could become you a landscaper, and you can work for these entertainment, these film places, and get paid way more for doing the same thing that you're doing. Who knew? Like, I would have never known that until he shared that with me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, shoot, I'm about to go get me a
Yeah.
lawnmower. You know what I'm saying? Could you imagine cutting the grass for Tyler Perry? I mean, that's the only person I know, but you know what I'm
And I
saying?
can
So that
come back too, because I got invited out to the mayor's yearly city address for
Mhm.
what he's going to do with the city of Atlanta. So that's coming up. So I'm got invited out there so I can come on and talk about the people that's there.
So has
yeah,
this already happened for 2025?
the one we talking about
No,
now,
it's coming
yeah.
up in 2 weeks.
It's coming up in 2 weeks. Okay. All
Oh, you
right.
talking about one with
Yeah,
the
All
mm-hmm.
right.
yeah,
So
I
yeah,
we,
yeah.
we
pass us that information, because I do know someone who is a film and screenwriting major at
Vance.
no at Georgia Gwinnett.
Mm.
So yeah, they have a film program there.
Hmm.
So that would be an interesting place for them
Yes.
to, yeah, to
And
sit
let's see
and
if you
listen
can
and,
get
and
us a
make some connections.
and let's see if you can get us a +1 to go to the mayor's event with you.
The city
I'm
address.
just saying.
I
I'm
was
just
wondering because
you know.
yeah, they sent me the invite out of the blue. So I'm like, hey, I received the blessings. This year's been a good
Okay,
year for me so far.
okay.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah,
I know. Hey,
that
hit
we
that
must have
file,
missed
baby. How you
ours.
doing? Congratulations.
We must have missed our invite. But okay, anyway, enough of that.
I know we got to call Mayor. Andre. What's going on,
Yeah.
Andre? You gonna
What's
watch
up?
this. You go ahead
Oh,
about the conversation. Karen and
did
Kat.
y'all see where my girl said she might be running for she's thinking about running for governor?
So wait a
Oh,
Mayor
minute.
Keisha.
Yes, I did see
yeah, I
that.
would
You
vote
know,
for
trying to get
because
I
we
would
don't have a
vote
trying to
for her
get
viable
her.
too.
candidate.
Oh,
I
We
would
do not
vote
have a
for her
viable
too.
candidate.
And I'm gonna Kat, we need to figure out how we can help on her campaign.
and get her on the show too, because I know she wrote a book. I'm just so excited, girl.
Okay.
I'm wow.
All right.
But you know, yeah. So we got some
All right.
stuff to talk
Okay.
about.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Hicks. Always mental health. Last thing for real. Mental health. It's a busy
Yes.
season. Everybody's stressed out. Give us your mental health cue. What you do to protect your mental wellness.
Uh, do not allow yourself to suffer in silence. Go out, find a
Mm.
therapist. You can, what is it, 988? The
Yes.
national suicide
Crisis line.
hotline. So if you having thoughts about that, contact them and reach out to somebody. It is a very detrimental thing. It is a serious thing. I unfortunately lost my sister-in-law to a mental health
Mm.
issue, and
I'm
she took her
sorry.
life. So it hits home to me, and it's something that I've always talked about since I've been doing podcasts. I've seen a therapist myself prior to that. And I think it's something that we all need to do and we all need to stay on top of, because your sanity is something that's highly important, especially now with this new administration in and some of the things that's going to be allowed, and that stuff's going to be going on in the street. So you have to protect your mental health before you do anything else.
Yes. Yes. Amen. I'm sorry for your loss. Sending love and blessings to you and your wife and your family. And we love you, man. We love you.
Yeah. Yeah. Sending you love, thoughts, and prayers.
Yes.
And as always, Antonio, and to our listeners, we want to thank you for joining us on this episode of Conversations with Karen and Kat.
Well, we are impacting the world one conversation at a time.